Hey everyone, welcome to another BTM screencast. Today we'll be going over Chapter 15, Planes, Routers, and Sanders. Joiner planes are used to smooth and straighten long edges. So on an object or a project that we need long straight edges, if it's going to be highly finished, or we're just trying to put two pieces butt together to make it look nice, we can use a joiner plane. An adjustable fence on it allows planing of square and beveled edges to 45 degrees or chamfers. And then here's a picture of one. Extreme care must be taken when operating these planes as there's no retractable guard, and the blades that are on them are beyond razor sharp. You're able to adjust the depth of cut, always doing small lifts. Hold the toe firmly on the work. When you start the motor, make sure to use steady, even pressure to push the plane forward. You don't want to get choppy with it. You don't want it to bounce and dig in. Just smooth and steady. Guide the angle of the cut by holding the guide against the side of the stock. And again, this is if you want to do a bevel or a chamfer. To plane a taper, make a number of passes, with each pass being shorter than the one before. Portable electric routers. Routers make many different cuts, including grooves, dados, rabbets, and dovetails. Routers are used to shape edges and make cutouts. The two routers that we use in this class are Bosch and Porter Cable. Here's a picture of a Freud router. And you can see he's just routing the edges of this down. Looks like he's putting a bevel on it. Laminate trimmers are small routers that may be used with one hand, and they're used to trim the edges of plastic laminates, such as on countertops or tabletops. And here you can see that he's using one, and here's your laminate top. To control the sideways motion, always use a pilot, and we'll see what that looks like in a little bit. Control can also be achieved by using an edge attached to the material being shaped. So what's that look like? Well, on this part you could see where the pilot is, and that's following the original stock. And then the router bit that you're using is able to do its job, and then we keep this reveal here. And this acts as a straight edge for it to go along. A straight edge is on an operator's right, which you can see right here, as the router is pulled, so of course in this direction. The rotation of the router will make the router go up against the straight edge. If you were to put the straight edge on the left side over here, and you go to pull, it's going to want to bounce in the other direction. So it may want to go this way. So adjustable guides can be attached to the router if you're going to do different shapes or you're working on different pieces. Circular cuts may be done with the router if you have a radial subbase, which we'll see in a second, which you might have already seen. Template guides attached to the router base router while cutting inside a template. And let's see what that looks like. So we were talking about doing a circular one before. Of course, you can see that here with the pivot point, and this just goes to whatever arc that you want. On this one here, you can see that they're just using this as a guide for where they want the router to go in right here. And this whole thing is a nice straight edge, and it'll allow you to glide going up the entire length. So just as on a drill, a router also has a chuck. Here you can see the router motor. Here's the base of it. The bit comes down, and here we have our template guide, so you can see over here, they already routed this out, and there's that little bit of an offset there. And then coming over to here, as soon as they bump up against the template, then the template guide will engage with that, and then leave this little bit just the same as on the other side. Always make sure you select the proper bit and secure it in the chuck. Make sure the work is secured and plug in the cord for the router. Lay the base on the work, keep the bit away from the stock, and start the motor. So the ones that we have, you can generally turn upside down and leave there, and then when you're ready to start, pick it up, flip the switch on, and use both hands. Control the movement and advance the bit into the cut. Now, once you start cutting, if you don't move quick enough and you start slowing down or you stay in one area too long, you will end up burning the wood. Portable electric sanders. Belt sanders are used to sand cabinet work and interior finish. So you can see this one here, obviously it's a belt sander. One of the more common belt sizes is 3 inches by 21 inches. Belts are installed by retracting the forward roller of the belt sander. And when you get to this point, we'll go over this in lab, and it's a little easier to understand once you see it. The belt should run with the lap of the joint, and of course if you run in the opposite direction, the belt flies apart or breaks down prematurely. Install the belt over the rollers and release the forward roller to operating position. And again, that's something that we'll do in lab. Here you can see that they're going to be installing a new belt on their belt sander. Always practice with scrap stock. This thing moves pretty quick. If you're not paying attention, make sure that the work is secure. If not, it'll throw it. It'll grab it and just toss it wherever it wants. Always make sure that you hold it with both hands. Start the sander and place it flat on the work. You don't want to place it on an angle. You don't want to go to the side of it. It does best if most of the belt is in contact with what you're sanding. When you're using it, pull the sander back, make sure you lift it clear, and then push it forward. Do not hold the sander in one spot too long. Much like with routing, if you stall in one spot, you'll end up burning the wood. Make sure the sander is off before setting it down. If you don't, it'll take off. It's like a little car, it'll just keep going. Finish sanders are used for final sanding. If you're going to finish something, always sand it. If you're going to stain it, if you're going to put poly on it, anything that you do, always make sure that you sand it first. If not, you apply the finish, it just looks like garbage, and it just shows that it's shoddy workmanship. The two types of finishing sanders you'll generally see are orbital motion and oscillating motion. So it's kind of what it sounds like. Orbits move more in a circle, and then the oscillating move kind of back and forth. Make sure the sandpaper is attached tightly, and this depends on the sander. Most of them that we use in here are orbital sanders and recorder sheet sanders, and I'll show you guys how to change that when you get to the point. Slowly pull and push the sander with the grain of the wood. If you're sanding it, don't go against the grain of the wood. Always go with the grain of the wood. Here you can see a Bosch sander and has a dust collection bag in the back. Abrasive quality is determined by how long it retains its sharp cutting edges. So some natural ones that you can use are flint and garnet. Most of the time we use synthetic abrasives such as aluminum oxide and silicon carbide. Grit refers to the size of the abrasive. So the higher the number, the smaller the grit. So if you have a 2000 grit sandpaper, it's going to be quite fine. If you have a 60 grit sandpaper, it's going to be quite coarse. And here we go with the very fine. So the number that I gave before, obviously much more fine than what we have here. In conclusion, joiner planes smooth long edges. Always, always, always use extreme care around power tools for you and the people using them. Portable routers are versatile. They can make cuts, grooves, dados, rabbets, and dovetails. Electric sanders allow for both coarse and fine sanding. And of course, we went over the types. Commonly used abrasives include flint, garnet, and synthetic abrasives.